Hey, what's going on, guys? In today's video, we're going to be checking out the latest real grade kit here, and it's once again one of the rare non-Gundam real grade kits with the Patlabor Ingram here. We've got the Ingram Plus for the latest real grade, and I think it looks really interesting. Patlabor is not a series that I have as much familiarity with, but I have built a number of different kits from the series over the years. Every now and then, they're pretty cool, but this one, obviously being a real grade, is sure to be a little bit different experience from any of the other Ingram kits that I've put together, I believe from the Motoroid line and Bandai's old Master Grade Ingram as well, which is a pretty cool one. But yeah, this one should be interesting. Let's go ahead and check it out here for today's video. And to be specific, this is actually from the Patlabor EZY current ongoing OVA series, so the design is going to be a little bit different for this compared to like other versions of the Ingram. And we have the typical box art design here where we have like a full CG render off to one side and then like a close-up of the bust here on the other side. But I do really like the subtle weathering and details that you can see here on the bust design, especially over here. Really cool artwork there on the front. It's got the lights lit up and everything. The visor, you can see details inside the visor there. So really cool artwork here on the outside. The ends of the box just going to have the same artwork there like that. And then on the bottom of the box, we've got some more information about the kit, different features. All the text here is in both Japanese and in English. So details of the inner frame and some of the gimmicks that we have built in, details of the visor and weapons and all of that here as well. And a look at how the kit is going to look just built straight out of the box without any paint or detailing or anything. Kind of the feature of the RG line is that they're meant to look really good straight out of the box. So here we can see just a few more sample photos of the kit in a few different poses here. And I will say that the joint covers here do look pretty nice. I'm anxious to see kind of what those look like in terms of the parts. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Alright, so we are going to have all that white armor, but interestingly, it looks like we got some like a wire in there. We've got some stickers, of course, a fairly small sticker sheet for an RG. A lot of RGs usually have a little bit larger sticker sheet than that. We'll take a closer look in just a moment. For the instruction manual, we've got that box art, that close-up box art there on the front. On the back side is going to be our decal guide here, as well as the color guide down there at the bottom. If you take a look at the color chart, you can see certainly not a very colorful design, but all of that information is there in Japanese and English as well as the painting guide for the pilot figure that we have included with this one, which is certainly something new. RGs are sort of infamous for not including pilot figures in them for the Gundam kits, but that's because they're 1/44 scale. In this case, you will note that this is 1/48 scale, so the kit ultimately is going to be about the same size as like a RG Gundam kit, but it's obviously a different scale just because the Ingram is a different, like much smaller in terms of like real world size compared to a Gundam. So we've got our parts list here on the inside and the construction, and as you can see, the construction is all going to be in black and white with just some key important points here highlighted in pink. And then it looks like it's going to be the type, this is also a little bit different. So a lot of the other RG manuals have like spots throughout the manual where they've got like the text. In this case, they have it more sort of like a master grade, in that it's just the center fold out pages here. So again, it's not a Gundam, so I think that's probably why they're just doing the manual a little bit different from how they typically do them for the Gundam RG kits. But you can see we've got a whole bunch more text, a whole lot of text there. And again, everything's in both Japanese and in English. So a little bit more there about the cockpit and the armaments. The cockpit detail looks really nice. Really anxious to see how that's going to look as well. But otherwise, that seems to be about it here for the manual. The very end page has a little bit about just like some of the gimmicks there, explaining how those work. So we'll take a closer look at that in the review. And then our decal sheet here is going to have a lot of nice marking decals on there. And then those like mirror finish ones, probably for going around on the frame, is typically where those go. So again, much less than what we see for an RG Gundam kit usually, but those do look really nice. All right, now normally this is the part of the video where I would show you guys the runners, but unfortunately I seem to have misplaced that video clip, so I'm kind of having to come back now. Just grabbed another kit here real quick just to kind of show this to you briefly without kind of unbagging everything. Basically the TLDR for my reaction going through the runners the first time when I originally unboxed it. All the inner frame is in this dark brownish gray. All the white is actually in a high gloss white, which I was not expecting that to be, but all the white armor armor is high gloss. We got some more of that here, and most of the kit is, yeah, either going to be in that dark gray used for the frame, like dark brownish gray. This light bluish gray color here used for like all the cloth coverings for the joints, that high gloss white for the armor. And then all the black parts are also in a high gloss black here. So you have some black parts on the feet, the cuffs, the torso in particular. So those are also going to be in high gloss plastic. So that's quite interesting. And then the hands, this runner here is all the hand parts, which is also a white runner, but it's not in high gloss. This is just regular white plastic there. And then aside from that small gold runner and that small silver runner in here, the other thing that I found particularly interesting was that we had this runner here, which is a 4-color runner here for the A runner, but it's 4 different clear colors, which is pretty unusual. If it's like a limited edition, like Gundam base exclusive clear color kit, something like that, it's common, but in a regular kit, it is kind of unusual, pretty rare to see a 4-color runner here where it's just 4 different clear colors, but that's all our clear parts there for the kit. So anyway, yeah, sorry guys that I don't have the original video going through the runners, but there's just kind of a breakdown of what the runners are going to be like. But for now, let's go ahead and check out the built kit and we'll get into the review. Alright guys, then here is the kit all built up, really nice with some really cool features in there. It looks great straight out of the box as it is an RG kit. That's kind of the whole point. One important point of context that is definitely something we need to consider in here as well, which is something I hadn't really thought of so much just through the unboxing portion of this, but it was brought up during the live build and I think it is definitely worth talking about, is the price for this. It is a pretty expensive kit, coming in at around $70, just over $70 for the MSRP for this, at least here in the US. And because that's considerably more than what we typically expect for a real grade kit, obviously the question is going to be, is it really worth the price? And that's a reasonable question to ask, so we'll get into that. But first, let's just talk about our accessories here. And so first of all, for our hand option parts here, you can see we've got a set of fixed pose closed fists. Now the thing about the hand option parts is that they are in white plastic, but as we saw going through the runners, they're in just a regular white plastic, not the high gloss plastic. So when you see it like from a distance, it's not noticeable, but when you see it up close, it's definitely a very noticeable difference between the white plastic used in the hands and the white plastic used for everything else, being in a kind of almost a different color tone even. But aside from those, then we've also got this set of open hands here, and you definitely can see that they're very highly detailed, especially these ones here on the inside, a ton of detail there, which is going to look really nice if you go in and panel line those. We've also got 2 weapon holding hands here for the left and the right side. Now these have a square hole in the inside, but these are actually for holding the stun stick, which we'll take a look at here in just a second. And then lastly, we've got a trigger finger hand here for the right side only. That's going to be for holding the pistol weapon. So in our shield here on the back side is where the collapsed version of the stun stick is stored here. But the front side of the shield there looks nice. As you can see, just on the kit, I did put some of the stickers on, not all of them, but a few of like the main ones just to kind of give the effect there, because those do work pretty well against the white plastic. But you can see the white plastic is high gloss and the sticker is not. So there's definitely going to be a little bit of a noticeable border around some of the stickers there. But anyway, the stun stick or the baton is stored in here. This will slide out there like that, and then you can like pop it out of there. And then separately, we've got the expanded version of that, which is again just going to fit into the hand here for that. Pretty simple, just a single piece. But that works well enough. The pistol, of course, is stored here in the side of the leg. Now, this is definitely one of the coolest gimmicks of the kit, and we'll talk some more about the gimmicks in just a minute, but just because we need the pistol out and I've got it stored up inside there. So when you open this hatch here on the side, you can see it pops the pistol out of there, which is really cool. And then that just slides out really simply. And this being molded in that high gloss plastic looks really nice. The middle part does actually revolve. So you can actually revolve that chamber there, which is kind of a cool little gimmick. Otherwise, then here for the face, we've got the head shutter option part. So both of the different face option parts do have a green visor part on the inside. So even for the shutter face option part here, that will have a clear green part in behind there. In order to swap that out, it does require you to disassemble the head a bit. It's pretty straightforward and easy to do. It's just like a couple of main pieces, and it's made in order to be easily disassembled. But other than that, the last accessory is just going to be the winch there at the front bottom of the waist section. Now this just requires a part swap. Basically, you just have to take that part out, replace it with this part here. And just real quick, as you can see, the one that I have on here already it has like the hook for the winch kind of tucked up inside there. It's just kind of a molded detail of that. But when we swap that out, this part here doesn't have the hook on the bottom and just has a little hole for connecting into the wire. And on the other end of the wire is where we have our little hook piece here like that. Now this wire is about 50 centimeters worth, so it's quite a lot if you wanted to recreate a pose or something where it's got the wire kind of like twisted around all around it or something like that. You can do that, or twist it around something else. Whatever you have, plenty of wire to work with. Now obviously, as you can see, it's very limp, so you're not really going to be able to like have it posed necessarily. But I think that that's fine. In terms of just like the scale of it, I think it actually looks pretty good. But it's going to be kind of hard to do much with this unless you're planning on making some sort of like diorama or vignette or something like that, where you're going to be using the wire for that. So that does kind of explain the fact that if we go back to the manual here for a minute, there's not really any display images here, ProMotion images showing the wire doing anything, because it's a cool feature and something that you could certainly do something with, but just the kit on its own, it's kind of hard to really do much with that as an accessory. And so that's it for the accessories, but as I said, we do have some cool gimmicks in here. So just to kind of go back to the leg, I did mention this for you guys and show you how the pistol moves in and out of there. On the inside of both the legs, we also have an opening gimmick. This part here opens up, and inside here, when we open that up, the ammunition, the bullets kind of pop out to the side there. So again, I'll try to show you slowly so you guys can see that. That's a really cool gimmick there, and you have that on both legs. On the inside panel of the leg opens up like that, so that's a really cool feature. On the opposite leg here on the outside, this panel is fixed in place. That does not open up or move or anything, so the inside construction, like the frame construction of the legs, is different for one than the other. This side is built so that it can open up and do that. This side doesn't have anything. Just to kind of make our way around the kit, kind of taking a look at everything up underneath the feet, some nice detail there, a mix of the high gloss black and the gray details inside. The way these tiny little clear parts fit into the front and backside here at the waist, for example, is really cool. Up here in the chest, you also have the floodlights. It's kind of tricky to get this open here, but on the chest, that'll open up on one side and on the other. And the really cool thing about these lights is that like these little chrome stickers, which are typically the kind of stickers that go on the frame for RG kits, are actually stickers to go underneath the lights. So like here for the floodlights, there's a little sticker underneath those. Here for these orange lights in the chest, there's a sticker behind there. And then for these ones here in the front of the waist section, there's foil stickers in there. The chrome finish foil stickers go in behind the clear parts so that the clear parts are much more visible, especially here like in these orange ones, because those are little clear orange parts set into black pieces all around it. Normally what that would mean was that the clear orange is kind of very hard to see. But because we have those chrome stickers in there behind that, I mean, the other option would just be to paint that in chrome, but because you have that back there, those actually shine pretty brightly, so that's pretty cool. The floodlights up here on the chest, pretty cool. You can close those back down. The front of the cockpit opens up. You have like two parts that will pull out to the front. Because it's like high gloss, it's very slippery, kind of hard to get a grip on. Might actually be a better idea to use tweezers or something, but those will pull out to the front a bit and then open up. One opens up and one opens down. They're like that for the front. And you can see our seated pilot figure up inside there. There's actually a lot of really great detail. It's gonna be kind of hard to see, of course. But then here at the top of the torso, if we lift the head up, well, a couple of things here actually. So those pistons that you see in the neck, the silver part is a separate piece, and then there's a separate like mounting piece at the bottom. And the black part that you see is actually a part of that black tubing that we had going through the unboxing. I wasn't really sure what that was for, but this is actually just like a little plastic tube that you're meant to just cut lengths of to use for the parts of the pistons there in the neck. So again, I would recommend you guys to go back and watch the live stream. I showed that in more detail, kind of like how that goes together. Really cool though, very unique. But inside here, that clear blue part can kind of pop that up. It just pops up there like that, and it's kind of helpful to use tweezers for that. And you can see our pilot figure down inside there. And if we go around to the back, backpack is actually made to pop off fairly easily there. And then we have this switch, and you can push that up. And when you push that up, it pushes the pilot up almost so that he's kind of like looking out through the front, that visor there at the base of the neck, basically. Or when you pull that back down, so you guys can see from the front here, that will go down. It's kind of hard to do it from this angle. Much easier to push it down like this, and easier than to show you of it popping up. So anyway, popped up like that, it looks like so. Otherwise, pulling this back down like that in the back, popping the backpack back on there, flipping that back around, and you can see the pilot's pretty down far deep into the cockpit. Now you can close that back up, but a very cool gimmick. And then you kind of saw this just a minute ago, taking a look at the face option parts for the mask, but you can see inside the clear green visor, a lot of really cool detail in there. That's a molded silver piece that has all like the sensor details inside there, and even up in the top of the head, that's a clear blue piece, and you can see some details inside there as well. And then even here for the clear red parts on the top of the shoulder, and you can see all that detail inside there. So a lot of great details on this one. Of course, for plugging this onto an action base, you'll notice that here on the back side of the hip section, there's a hole there, but it's not really necessarily a kind of a deep hole, just kind of a circle bit. But you can actually remove this white part. That gray piece inside, you can slide it down and then pop it out, and once removed, just looks like that. But if we flip this around the other side, you can see there's our hard point. So we put it back in basically in the opposite way, like that, slide it back up again to lock it into place, put this white part back over the top of that, and now we have a hard point here on the back for plugging this onto an action base. And you do also have the gimmick in the arm with the hand being able to extend down to grab the pistol down there. Now the problem that I'm noticing is that you're often, when trying to pull that out, you kind of have to pull it by the hand, and you're just going to pull the hand out of the ball joint there. So with this one too, I might have to do a little coaxing with the tweezers to get that out first. Then you can extend that out. It's just kind of a little tight in there. And then with the hand, I don't want to accidentally push it back in now, or it would make sense to show you guys with the open hand anyway. You can see how that hand now is made to very easily reach the pistol here on the side of the leg. So now I won't spend too much time going through the articulation. I would kind of rather just to show you through just a few poses here, but essentially the articulation is going to be really nice. Here you do have a double joint in the elbows to get a pretty full bend there. For example, the legs you can bring up, you've got a double joint here in the knee. And one thing in particular that I want to talk about with the articulation is just kind of how it shows the joints. Now on this part, and you have kind of a zigzag seam line kind of between the two halves there, and I think it looks pretty convincing. Here in the waist section, kind of less so, because you do have a straight seam line on those parts and like the top of the leg anyway, and then there's another separate part here for the waist, just to kind of pop that off there just so you can see. And then like up in the torso section, all those parts look pretty good. That looks pretty good. Just kind of these parts here, because it's two halves there, I would definitely recommend removing the seam line on those, maybe if you really felt so inclined. Usually it's just going to be on the top of there and it's really not going to be seen, but you are going to have this big gap in between then. The only real way to get rid of that gap would be just to glue this in place permanently and fill that in with putty. Up here in the elbow, a pretty obvious joint there. And the shoulder, it's kind of like the knee. The shoulder is pretty good. It's not really very noticeable. The joint there is just a zigzag line between the halves there. So the elbow, I mean, again, it would be very difficult for them to do this in kind of any other way other than like maybe using like the Master Grade Thunderbolt style, like trash bag kind of system here, which I just don't think would have looked good either. So again, if you really want that to look the most convincing, like a cloth covering over the joint, you would just have to just glue this in place and then use putty to just putty over it to make it look like cloth. Lastly then guys, as for the size of this, it's coming up to about 17 centimeters for the head height there, and compared with a 1/44 scale Gundam kit here, just as an example, the ARC-78-2, you can get a sense of the size of it. So it's basically about the size of like a small Master Grade, one of the smaller Master Grade kits. So just to wrap up then here guys, we'll take a look at the kit in a few different poses, and you can see that it looks awesome. And in a vacuum, I would say that this kit is great. It's got some really cool features in there. I like the size of it. It's not quite as small as a typical RG. It is a little bit larger. It's not quite the size of like a Master Grade, which I think would have been nice, but the size is great. The details are great. The gimmicks are great. The range of articulation is great. Basically everything about it is great. One of the few things that I don't know if I really care so much for is the fact that all the white and black are in that high gloss plastic. I think that that probably looks more accurate to how it's supposed to look. Like in the anime, it's basically meant to be like a mecha version of a police car, right? And you would typically think of that as being very shiny like this. So it makes sense, but as a model kit, I don't like it as much. I'd rather just have it in just kind of a normal, like kind of satiny plastic finish. And then if you want it to be gloss coat, you can always then gloss coat the parts on your own. That's how I would prefer it. But again, just going back to real grade as a line, the line is kind of made with the intent that the kits look as good as possible straight out of the box without you know, any painting, detailing, and anything like that. And so in order to make it look its best right out of the box, they just kind of made it gloss coated for you already. I completely understand the decision to do that, and a lot of you guys are probably in favor of that because it does look good. I would just have preferred it to not be like that. Other than that, though, I don't really think there's anything necessarily missing from this set. I mean, just how a Patlabor Ingram kits usually are, they don't necessarily always have like a ton of accessories, so I think we pretty much have everything covered in here between the revolver, the stun stick, the shield, and then even the winch wire, and just some different hand option parts. So I think pretty much everything's in there. So really, I think if Bandai had said that they're gonna make a real grade Ingram kit and then asked the fans what all they would want to be included, I think pretty much everything that you could possibly want is included with this, and it looks great and works, you know, perfectly. Really, the only hang up is that is it still then worth that price tag, and that's really just kind of going to be up to you. I think there's a lot of options available for different Ingram model kits between, you know, some of Bandai's older kits in like kind of HG, including a couple of different master grade kits that they've made. Much more recently, there's a lot of Moderoid model kits. I think Aoshima also has Patlabor model kits, I believe, and there is also the Artpla fixed pose statue model kits from Kyoto as well, which look great, but they just obviously aren't going to have the option parts and any kind of articulation or anything like that. But so there's definitely a lot of options out there, and so if you're really wanting to pay the price for this one, I think at the end of the day, this is probably the best Ingram kit out there at the moment. And so, and if you wanted to get one Ingram kit and you asked me like what's the #1 best Ingram kit to get just kind of generally, this is probably it. So I mean, it's a great kit. Is it worth the price? I don't know. You guys let me know in the comment section. What do you think? If you guys want to pick it up for yourself or anything else from Bandai, of course, you can check the link in the video description to USA Gundam Store. We've got this kit along with a ton of other great stuff there on the website, so check that out, of course. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like. If you're not yet subscribed, make sure to subscribe as well while you're here. I really appreciate your guys' support, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, guys.